Well, good evening, IFL Nation, and welcome back to the lab, your source of everything indoor football league. Tonight, we will be recapping the week that was, previewing the week that is to come, and discuss all the other great goings on in the amazing indoor football league. With that said, you know what time it is? It is Wager Wednesday in the Indoor Football League. Thank you so much for tuning in, taking a little bit of time out of your day and showing some interest in some fast-paced, high-flying indoor football. For those of you who are new to the IFL or to this video channel, welcome aboard. My name is Alex Schuberth. I am the lead IFL contributor over for a sports forum site called Sports Coast to Coast. They are a Pacific Northwest-based sports forum site that specializes in the coverage of the Indoor Football League and its member teams specifically. We have up-to-date team rosters, game previews, recaps, a whole host of another analysis for you. If you call yourself a fan of the Indoor Football League, Sports Coast to Coast is a go-to destination to ramp up that fandom even more. Definitely go check it out. I put the URL in the description, and there you will also find the written version of the post that I put out late last night. With that being said, let's take a peek at the opening segment of tonight's show. We made it. It is the double-digit week count, if you can believe it. We are already 9 weeks in. We've got another 10 weeks left to go. This is the midpoint. This is where teams that have built up some pretty solid leads are going to continue those playoff pushes, try to get a home game in the first round of the playoffs once August comes rolling around. And for teams that are in the middle or near the bottom, the time is now to make any changes needed in order to stage a run to some postseason football. Week 9 was an amazing week of football. For starters, we had all 14 teams active, giving us 7 jaw-dropping games throughout the weekend. We had overtime. We had game-winning field goals, either made or lost at the end of games to swing results. And we finally have all 14 teams with at least one win on the season. So we'll go over each of those games along with the results of our bets, which, spoiler up top, we lost more than we won this past week, so a little unfortunate. We'll add those results to the season-long tracker, figure out which streaks are still going strong and which are perhaps changing course, which we'll delve into in a little while once we make our picks. We'll also take a second to evaluate where we are compared to the goal set that we established at the start of the season, all the way back in week 1. So are we on track with most of those? Are we falling behind? It'll be an important exercise to run in terms of centering our mind for future picks. Once we go through all the recaps and trends up to date, we'll attack the Week 10 big board. We've got 5 games on deck, a game tomorrow, 3 on Saturday, and 1 on Sunday to close out the week. And we'll do our single game bets along with our 3-leg parlay attempt. The past 3 attempts of these has not been great from a result standpoint, but we've still won 6 out of the 9 legs. We just happen to scatter 1 loss each across weeks 7, 8, and 9. Is this the week where we finally catch a break and get all 3? We'll find out. Week 9, what a week it was. We began with a Friday game in Quad City between 2 Eastern provisional playoff teams. Tulsa heading to Moline to play the Steamwheelers. The over-under of this game was set at 77.5, and quite honestly, we couldn't have asked for a better start to it. Quad City scoring touchdowns on each of their first 3 possessions with Demery Croft at center. Quad City scoring in each of their first 2 with TJ Edwards and Hassan Rogers leading the way. And then we got droughted. 11-plus minutes without a score as the teams traded unsuccessful field goal attempts. But this one was very tight all the way through. I don't think the game ever got anything larger than an 8 or a 9-point lead. The defining moment of this one actually came near the very end of the game with the Oilers up 36-28. All heck broke loose and the stream went dead. Right as Quad City was in the red zone. As we found out later on, they did score the touchdown, but neither of their following couple attempts to tie the game turned out the way Quad City would have hoped. The two-point conversion missed, as well as Kyle Kaplan's ensuing deuce attempt. So the Oilers, they do just enough. It wasn't the prettiest game we've ever seen from them, but it's a win nonetheless. Second straight year, actually, that they've gone into this building and beaten the Steamwheelers. Last year was that memorable 72-59 shootout. This year, a 36-34 slugfest. That advances the Oilers to 5-2, and the Steamwheelers after a 6-0 start with a couple straight losses. So that first place race out in the East is very, very much wide open with how that game shook out. Late Friday game down at the Bay. It was the Sugar Skulls and the Panthers. And this one, I mean, if you looked away for even a second at any point in this game, odds are is that you missed a scoring play because we had a ton of them in this game. The Panthers in particular, with Joshua Jones, put up 40 first half points. The Sugar Skulls not too far behind with 29 first half points of their own. Looking very good with Jorge Reyna at offense these past couple games. And for the Panthers, this was just a matter of keeping Tucson at bay. The teams ended up trading touchdowns for the majority of the second half. The critical play coming with about 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter when a Sugar Skull muffed handoff in the red zone got recovered by the Panthers, allowing Bay Area to score that touchdown to offer them a little bit of breathing room. This bet got very, very interesting late. With the Panthers ahead by 17 and the Sugar Skulls staring a 4th and 16 in the face, they got an opening and they took it. Jorge Reyna evades pressure, rolls to his right, throws across the body, and it's Jerome Buckner catching the touchdown, leaving us at the mercy of the ensuing point after as to whether or not this bet was going to lose or win. Even an extra point kick would have cooked us here. But Tucson decided to go for 2, and that attempt did not succeed. So we literally, in every sense of the word, escape with this spread bet win. We predicted a Bay Area double-digit win, and they barely get the job for us in an 11-point, 68-57 victory over the Tucson Sugar Skulls, with the Panthers staying a game behind Arizona in that Western Conference first place showdown with that 5-2 record, and Tucson falls to 3-4. Saturday's slate began in San Antonio with the Gunslingers taking on the San Diego Strike Force. Over-under in that game was 79.5. And for the first 3 quarters of this one, actually first 55 minutes, if you sit down and think about it long enough, we got pretty much the result that we were expecting. Both teams spotty success offensively, and we got to a point with those 5 minutes left in the fourth where it was 32-27 favoring San Diego, where all we needed was more of the same defensively, and we were going to be looking in pretty solid shape for this one. But inside of those 5 minutes, we had San Antonio get a touchdown. We had San Diego score a touchdown right at the 1-minute warning. So all of a sudden now, a touchdown and any sort of points after would have cooked us. And wouldn't you know it, at that kickoff at the 1-minute warning, magnificent return by Khalil Rashad gets the Gunslingers basically in the red zone to start the possession. And with 15 seconds left, newcomer quarterback Joaquin Collazo delivers a 6th touchdown pass on the night, lobbing it back of the end zone, Naquan Murray catching it in bounds. San Antonio, importantly as well, getting the 2-point conversion on a nice diving catch by Khalil Rashad. That made it 42-39 Gunslingers with just seconds left on the clock, but the Strike Force did not say die. They trotted out one of the best kickers in the league in Ernesto Lacayo for a 31-yard field goal attempt, I think it was. Calmly boots it through. Ladies and gentlemen, we head to overtime. And it's amazing how these overtime games work in this league, because it's that perfect blend of execution and strategy. San Antonio and San Diego both executed perfectly. San Antonio rather, began that first overtime with the touchdown, got the extra point. San Diego got the touchdown to make it a 1-point game, and that's where the roll of the dice gamble came in. Ernesto Lacayo was sent out, not for a regular PAT, but for the potential walk-off 2-point drop kick. A gutsy move that did not pay off for San Diego, unfortunately. Lacayo missed the kick, short, wide to the left, and the Gunslingers kick a 4-game losing streak to the curb, ironically enough, with a 49-48 overtime victory against the San Diego Strike Force. The Gunslingers get up to 2-5. They keep their season very, very much alive, while the Strike Force tumble to a 3-4 record. Duel down in Duval between the Fishers Freight and the Jacksonville Sharks, both teams returning from a Week 8 bye and starting the first leg of a true home-and-home series. We had the Sharks at 7.5 on this one. I honestly like the Sharks for a lot more when I made my pregame pick for this one. Oh man, did the Sharks ever prove us right in this case. In quite literally every sense of the word, it was offensive perfection for Jacksonville. Caleb Barker accounting for 5 touchdowns. The Sharks scoring on each of their 8 drives to begin the game. That lone 9th drive was the final drive of the game where they just knelt down the clock and iced the win. Fishers, they couldn't get really much going on the ground game in this one, which is normally their strength that they rely upon. And again, the decision to start Jaya Ride over Keegan Shoemaker or vice versa didn't exactly pan out for the Freight. Multiple interceptions by that Shark defense, which has just been so good at VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena this year. Just paving the way for the Sharks to cruise here. The final score was 59-27. The Sharks dominate the Freight in advance of the return match, which is this week, which we'll preview later on in the show. The Sharks advance to a record of 5-2, while Fishers drops to 2-5 after a perfect 2-0 start. We had an 8 o'clock game on Saturday between Green Bay and Iowa. And this one, another game that I was tasked with recapping, and another game that got to 125 plus points. Crazy how that works sometimes. But this was another game highlighted by just about everything that you would ever want as far as offensive efficiency. Particularly on the side of the Green Bay Blizzard, Max Myler getting Player of the Week honors on the offensive side of the ball. 9 total touchdowns, including 8 passes and 1 on the ground, as he continually sliced Iowa's defense for big play after big play. And to Iowa's credit, they were down 34 in the second half, or late in the first half, I should say. They didn't stop playing. Keon Williams actually had one of the most unique games that you'll ever see, scoring 5 total touchdowns in this game in 4 different ways: receiving, rushing, end zone fumble recovery, and kickoff return. So he continues his unreal run after being named to an All-IFL team last year. But in the end, the story of this one, Iowa's defense just could not get the job done. Green Bay, 74 points compared to Iowa's 58. And that is how we got to our second highest scoring game of the IFL this season. So Green Bay with the win, they go to 5-3. Iowa stumbles to an East worst 1-6. desperately looking for answers on that defensive side of the ledger heading into the second half of the season. Desert Showdown at Desert Diamond Arena between the Nighthawks and the Rattlers. Prime time Western Conference showdown between two teams that participated against each other in last year's conference semifinals. We had the under for this one at 92 and the hook. And this one, again, just like San Diego, San Antonio, was looking very, very good up until the final minute of the game when things could have gone a little bit haywire. So fast forward to roughly the 1 minute warning of this game. Nighthawks enjoying a 47-35 lead. Rattlers with the ball. Dalton Sneed throws a nice touchdown pass, corner of the end zone. Jamal Miles comes up with it. PAT is good. It gives us a 47-42 game. Onside kick recovery attempt incoming. The Rattlers get it. And the Nighthawks, as far as I understand, they didn't have any challenges remaining or timeouts, one of the two, on a play that looked very, very close. Did Devontae Merriweather recover the ball just at 10 yards or maybe just before? The debate is up for discussion, but not really as far as score evaluation purposes. In any event, Arizona got the ball back, drove down the field in just 3 plays with the game-winning touchdown coming under 10 seconds to go. A touchdown pass thrown beautifully center of the end zone to Isaiah Houston. That play gave the Rattlers the lead while simultaneously cooking our under bet. Vegas, they did try to tie the game with a field goal at the gun. Couldn't get it to go. So Arizona comes out with another one of those improbable victories. They did it in Green Bay earlier this year. They get it done at home against the Nighthawks on Saturday night. Final score 50-47. We lose our under bet by just a handful of points. So that is the path that brought us to 3-3 in advance of Sunday's game between the Massachusetts Pirates and Northern Arizona Wranglers. We took the Pirates on the spread at 2.5, and through the first half, looked reasonably okay. The Pirates weren't great, but they still held on to a 10-7 lead at the half. After that, things just tumbled downwards for Massachusetts. Northern Arizona gets a much-needed shot in the arm on offense. Quarterback Ramon Atkins making his 2025 debut as the 2022 Rookie of the Year winner helped Northern Arizona blast off to a 26-0 run to begin that second half. And that was just a stretch where the Pirates offense, with the struggles that they've had, just could not recover. They did get a couple touchdowns late to make it a little bit more respectable, to say it very loosely. But it still stands as Northern Arizona's first win of the season. They get it 33-24 over the Massachusetts Pirates. Northern Arizona to 1-6, Massachusetts to 2-5, a precarious position to be in advance of their upcoming bye week. So that is how we got to 3-4 on the season. We add a little bit of beef to our spread betting, which is now at 8-5 on the season. Our over-under picks were an empty 0 for 3 this week, but we're still a very good 15-9 betting on the point totals. The money line at 3-10, not great, but we got a win this week on the money line and a win last week on the money line. So we're definitely starting to be on the upswing there. And assuming that we can keep our spread betting and over-under betting efficient, this is going to spell some pretty solid success for us later on. So through 50 games, 26-24, 52% conversion rate, just a handful of percentage points off what our historic rate of success has been in picking games through the first couple seasons that we ran this. Our 3-leg parlay attempt, we mentioned it earlier, and it was a 2 out of 3 effort. And for what appears to be here, the third time this season, the undoing leg was a game involving the Bay Area Panthers. Odd little development there, but we had picked them to stay under 79.5, leaning upon Tucson's 13-1 under streak in their past 14 games. Maybe this one was just the ill-timed hard regression to the mean game where we got, I think, 125 total points in that game, destroying the odds makers mark on this one. And that spoiled the party for our other two correct picks, which was Blizzard Barnstormers over 85.5 and Pirates Wranglers under 77.5. So it's 2 straight weeks of 2 out of 3. This is actually the longest that we've gone without a parlay win this season. So yeah, going to try to craft up that next winning one this week. We were able to do it in week 10 of last year, so does lightning strike twice on the 10th week of the season for us. So last week's results, a little bit more losing than we did winning, so fittingly we are back below the net zero line on the season. Not by much for the flat method, a little bit more from the weighted method, but again, that boils down to the 0-7 money line favorite drought that we began the 2025 season with. So again, our goal is to bring this up as much as we can, try to get as many wins as possible on this week's 5-game slate, and see where it stacks us up heading into next week and beyond. And here's our ROI table as well. Flat method at around -2% and the weighted method at -8 ROI. So not great results so far, but we're still midway through the season. And like we saw last year, we can pick really any time to just go on that heater. And that's what we're hoping to do. So here's where I bring back this slide. This is from our first week of the season. Some of the goals that we had for 2025 as far as the betting results go. We were looking to end the season with around a 5% ROI, which equated to 6 units of net gain. As you said, right now, we're at a net loss just under a unit. So we've got some work to do here in order to bring us back up to that 60 number. And that result is probably going to depend on picking some underdogs to come through and win some games. We don't want to spoil the bunch with a whole lot, but we want to try to get back to what we did 2 years ago and just picking plums at the right place at the right time. So that is our goal for that one. Our other goal was outperforming the population result for each type, bet type, and selection. Our spread betting and our over-under betting, as we said before, have been very, very good, especially comparing those individual records to the population of games as a whole, which we'll get a little bit into more in the next slide. And unsurprisingly, it's that money line that is the kind of the odd apple here. Positive result in terms of win-loss record and net profit. Again, spread money line or spread in total looking good, but money line's gonna need a lot of miracles to happen. We did get our 3 parlay wins that we had set out to get at the beginning of the season. Hopefully looking to add a little bit more to that. Confident we can get it up to at least 5 before the regular season comes to a close. And we want to win at least 7 picks for all 14 teams this season. We're not quite at 7 yet for anybody, but we've still got an entire half of a season to work with. 5 teams in particular that we'll be taking a look at, I only have 1 or 2 betting wins on the season with. So we'll take a look at those, see what may have gone wrong with our picks there so far, and see if we can turn it around a little bit. Here are our full results for game populations. We have a slight favorites for favorites on the spread, and home teams are just cooking right now. They are winning 64% of games, covering in 56% of those total games. So that represents about an 85-ish 50% rate of covering, given that they won. Money line betting is 66% favoring the favorites, which is par on course with the historical average. The over-under betting, unders still at a slight advantage, or I shouldn't say slight, but it's at a advantage, with 56% of games making the under so far in the 2025 season. That is despite a very, very good week for the over, which went 5-2 during week 9. And we see that result once we get around to the average score per game in 2025, which is 82.5. We can see the disparity in the overs and the unders hitting at each of those thresholds. So anytime that we're in the 83.5 range, it obviously depends on the teams that we'll be taking a look at, but that's another nice data point for us to consider as we continue to make some of these picks. So here are our team-by-team trends, with Massachusetts and Northern Arizona resulting in the Wranglers' first win. There is just one perfect streak remaining on the IFL season, and that is the Northern Arizona Wranglers and underbetting. So that is an 0-7 mark. There are some other notable results too there, highlighted in either green or red, representing a statistically significant advantage for players along those lines. So these are also going to be points that we're going to be relying on pretty heavily. Here are our bet results by team, and I've highlighted the teams out in red that we're going to need to start banking some wins in a hurry. Those are the Gunslingers with 1 win, which is the fewest of the 14 teams that we have on the season. And then the 4 teams at 2 wins: San Diego, Vegas, Massachusetts, and Tulsa. So we have had lots of success betting overs and unders, lots of success betting spreads. Obviously, the money line hasn't been that great, but perhaps that's something that we have to rely a little bit more heavily upon, especially if we want to make that 7-win goal for these clubs. Our most successful teams are Quad City, Northern Arizona, Bay Area, Green Bay, and Iowa, with Jacksonville in that mix as well, including a perfect 3-0 over-under record in games involving the Sharks. So we will continue to add to this. I promise a Tulsa spread bet will be coming at some point. Will it be this week? Stick around in a little bit to find out. So time for the weekly disclaimers. The lines and odds that we're going to be using today are going to come from DraftKings Sportsbook. Everything is pretty much filled in now that DraftKings is offering money lines on all games. Historically, that was only the case in games with less than a double-digit point spread, but they have expanded that to include all games now. This series is purely for entertainment, curiosity, and fun. It's not meant to be taken as any sort of betting advice or a means to make money off the side. As we've seen this season, there's no such thing as a lock or guarantee in the sports wagering world. With that said, if you do decide to tail or fade any of my bets, you're more than welcome to do so, but please gamble responsibly. Practice safe gaming habits. That includes setting limits, both with budget and time, risking only what you can afford to lose, never chasing your losses, healthy practices like that. If you or a loved one is having trouble with problem gaming, there's lots of resources that you can refer to online to get some really valuable assistance in that matter. HaveAGamePlan.org is an example that I have down below. That's one of many great resources that help assist with problem gambling stuff. You must be 21 or older to play in most jurisdictions as well. With that said, it is time to head to the big board and make our picks. 5 games on the docket. Whoop. Hang on. There we go. 5 games on the docket. And Monica asking in the chat, thanks for tuning in. Does fewer games this week make it easier to make picks rather than a full week of week 7 games? Very interesting question. There's 2 schools of thought to it. With fewer games, you can kind of refine a little bit of your thought process on a little bit more specifically when you have 5 versus 7 games. But in the same breath, taking away those 2 games means that we have a lot less wiggle room to try for a winning week in this 5-game slate. Just 3 losses would qualify as a losing week. So it is a critically important exercise to run to try to nail our picks here as best as we can. And we will start to do so with tomorrow's game, an 8:05 p.m. Eastern kickoff between the Oilers and the Barnstormers. Tulsa heading to Des Moines with a 4-game win streak. They are laying 7.5. The over-under is 87.5. Tulsa money line is minus 245. Iowa money line, a plus 200 triple your money proposition. So we had mentioned how hot Tulsa is right now. They've won 4 straight games. They just took down the East's best team in Quad City. And that was on the road at Vibrant Arena, where the Steamwheelers have been near unbeatable in the past 3 or 4 seasons. So that's an impressive win, however you shake it out. And they're going to look to add to that total against an Iowa team that just hasn't had the best starts to games recently. A lot of their games this season have seemed to fall behind by anywhere between 20 and 30 points and literally chase points for the second half and try to make it like a 1 or 2 score game, which on some games this season, they've executed that to perfection, especially on spread bets where they have swung bets in favor of they've shifted hands. The money is basically what I'm trying to say. So in terms of evaluating this game, I was a little bit back and forth. I know we haven't picked Tulsa games on the spread yet, but there's something that we have to discuss with Iowa for a second. They score a ton of points per game. They also let up a ton of points per game. I think it was 54.7 they're averaging right now, giving up through their 7 games this season. That's not going to cut it in the IFL, and that poses a very disastrous matchup potentially going up against an offense led by TJ Edwards. There is a lot of good ways that you could take this one. My pick's going to be the over at 87.5. There's a little bit of concern in this one where we saw Tulsa is 2-5 to the under. They play very respectable defense. But in the same breath, we know that Iowa's 6-1 to the over. The one game that didn't go under or didn't go over was a game where Iowa was shut out in the entire first half. And that was that game a few weeks ago against the Jacksonville Sharks. Monica leaning Tulsa money line. Pretty solid bet, to be honest, if you're looking for a quick win. If you don't mind the minus 245 odds, you're basically betting $25 just to win a little bit over $10. But I still think it's a pretty solid play. Iowa, we know, is a team, especially at home, that can just spike in games like this where you just don't think they have any chance whatsoever. But until they do something about getting a few more stops defensively, I don't see this game panning out any different. I think 47 points is Tulsa's floor in this one. I think TJ Edwards eats. Tulsa's only gone over 40 points in 3 of their 4 away games this season, but I think this one they stay red hot. The offense is getting healthier, getting key pieces back in that rotation, and that's only going to help them going forward. I think Barnstormers games too were averaging around 96 combined points per game. So we just need anywhere close to that, and we're probably in the clear. So single game bet, give me Tulsa, Iowa over 87.5. We've got 3 games on Saturday, 2 overlapping at 7:05 Eastern, one of which is the Jacksonville Sharks and the Fishers Freight. We saw this matchup last week down in Duval. We get the return match here just outside Indy. The spread is 8.5 points, favoring the Sharks on the road. The over-under 81.5, Jacksonville minus 278 money line, and Fishers plus 225. And I'll be honest, I feel for fans out in Fishers. He had that great 2-0 start, and then just everything seemed to fall apart. Inconsistent quarterback play, definitely the story that probably comes up to people's minds when they first think, what caused the losing streak. But not to be forgotten in that equation is the Freight defense has given up 50 or more points in each of those 5 losses. So the Dixie Wooten defense, which we would normally associate with, big plays, takeaways, defensive stands, unfortunately, that hasn't carried over to the Freight consistently just yet. As for the Sharks, the opposite is true. They've been arguably the best team in the league on the defensive side of the ball. They gave up 27 points to Fishers last week, another sub-30 defensive outing at home for them. And I think they're going to do much of the same in Fishers this week. Again, for the Freight, you're deciding between Wright and Shoemaker to be your starter at quarterback. Is the guy you choose going to be the hot hand that you're looking for? And it seems like in all 5 games of the losing streak, the answer to that has been a resounding no. Meanwhile, for the Sharks, as time goes on, that offense is going to continue to get healthier, get more in the groove. So with that, I'm going Jacksonville again. Second straight cover pick for the Sharks over the Freight. This is 8.5 on the point spread. My model had Fishers losing last week by like 17 points on average. It might have even been close to 20. Just simply based on last week's result. Tell me why this should be any different. If only for the disparity in the defenses alone. That said, the path to this bet's demise is the same exact thing as last week's. Fishers still has a dominant running game where if they can get that on track, they make this spread bet very, very difficult to cover. But if Jacksonville can repeat the effort that they had on defense, they only give up like maybe 3 yards a carry to the Freight, force them to move the ball through the air. It's only going to wind up in more disaster for the Freight. And not that it matters too much, but with the Indy 500 the following day after, the Pacers in the conference finals against the Knicks, how much interest is there in Fishers right now? So that's my logic. I think Barker has another good game. That offense rounding to form. The Sharks actually on a 2-game win streak, I believe. Let's see if they can make it 3 with a convincing win over Fishers. The other 7 o'clock kickoff is Bay Area at San Antonio. Rematch of a week 2 game that saw the Gunslingers upset the Panthers 28-21 at SAP Center. The Panthers go to Freeman Coliseum as 9.5 point favorites. The over-under is 82 in the hook. Bay Area is minus 310 money line and San Antonio plus 250. This should be a very, very fun game for multiple reasons. I don't think people are going to be giving this game the credit or the respect that it deserves. For starters, this is a revenge game for the Bay Area Panthers, and they will want nothing more than to spoil the home fun for the Gunslingers, just as San Antonio did in that week 2 contest. The Panthers have been an offense that has been on absolute fire since that hiccup on their opening game. 53.5 points, I think they have averaged in the 6 games after that loss. Like they're just humming right now. Josh Tomas, the rest of that Panther offense just looks stellar. In the defense, it's always good. I mean, they've had a few games in this recent stretch where they've kind of given up a little bit more than they typically have, but I mean, any good offense in the IFL can mask a defense that's perhaps leaving a little bit of meat on the bone. For San Antonio, the offense behind Joaquin Collazo looked very good against a solid San Diego defense. Collazo, 7 touchdown passes on the night, keying the 49-48 overtime victory. So this one's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough one for both teams. And those gunslingers games can sometimes be a bit of a grind. But again, going back to our year-to-date results, we're 1-6 in gunslingers games. We need a win. And I'm going to trust the Panthers as heavy favorites to get the job done. It's just really tough for any defense to go up against these guys right now with the way that they are just flat out dominating. The question is going to be whether San Antonio can keep up. But I feel like this should be a very, very fun game nonetheless. And a bit of an interesting prove-it game, too, for Collazo. Like, he scored 49 last week. Can he do it again against a Bay Area defense with as much upside as any unit in the IFL? So that's my pick there. Bay Area minus 310. Outright win. Third and final game of Saturday, 9:05. It's another rematch. The Rattlers and Northern Arizona Wranglers doing battle in Prescott Valley. In-state rivalry. Arizona, 13.5-point favorites, over under 82.5. Arizona's minus 485 on the money line, whereas the Wranglers are plus 370. So if you're Northern Arizona, congratulations. You got your first win last week against Mass. Your immediate reward, taking on the defending champs, who, by the way, have the best record in the IFL in their title defense campaign. So it's going to be interesting. All these games are, and I feel like I say that a lot, but there are a lot of great storylines to this one. For starters, on Northern Arizona's side, Ramon Atkins, it took him a half to kind of get that offense in motion, but as soon as he was able to find a groove, hurting the Pirates with both his arm and his legs, it led to some pretty consistent offense that Northern Arizona hasn't really seen all season long. Offensive consistency has not been a problem in the least bit for Arizona. Sure, they've had kind of stretches of like 2-3 drives where it was like, huh? What are they doing? But all things considered, they're still the leading scoring team in the IFL at 51 points per game. And that's with a whole bunch of injuries and roster turnovers, too. Like, regardless of who Dalton Snead has had by his side, he has had no problem in making any of those skill position players shine. The first meeting between these two teams was in week 6, where the Rattlers pounded the Wranglers by 29 points. That game ended 49-20. Of course, that was when the Wranglers still had CJ Fowler as their starting quarterback, an experiment that they cut short prior to last week's game against Massachusetts. This pick attempts to answer a very, very important question. Northern Arizona unders are 7-0. Do we ride it, or is this the time where we bank on the opposite finally happening? And my answer to that is the fade. We are going over at 82.5. It is time. It is time for a Northern Arizona Wranglers game to finally make the over. And I feel really good about this pick, knowing that there's one team on one side of the field that's averaging over 50 points per game. Again, it's kind of like a situation that Tulsa has against Iowa, where I feel like Arizona can easily get into the high 40s at absolute least. All that we would really necessarily have to worry about is Ramon Atkins and the Wranglers' offensive abilities to make up for the rest of the total. And the way that second half went down in Massachusetts was certainly encouraging. But yeah, these teams have offered a bunch of shootouts in the past couple years. Obviously, rosters have been kind of different in flux throughout that span. But we made one of these fade picks in the week where Green Bay finally got Quad City to fail to cover against the spread after starting the season 6-0 in that category. I feel like we're going to get a similar result here with Arizona and Northern Arizona. A game that Monica out here is boldly predicting eclipses the century mark. I would certainly welcome that result. No doubt about it. Could use a no-sweat win every now and then. And finally, our game on Sunday. This is at Front Wave Arena, the rubber match between the Vegas Nighthawks and the San Diego Strike Force. The road team has won both games in this series so far, so perhaps it's no surprise that the road team is once again favored in this one. Vegas by 1.5. Over-under is 84 in the hook. The Nighthawks are minus 125 money line, and the Strike Force are plus 105. And Vegas might be the best 4-3 team in recent memory. Jerome Johnson is firmly back as the starting quarterback, and he has no doubt captured his MVP form from last season, as the Nighthawks have scored 55 and 47 in the two games since his return as a starter. Even though they lost last week, that was far from Johnson's fault. But yeah, Vegas has come up with some relatively tough losses in that 4-3 sequence. But they look really good. They look really good. It would not shock me if somehow in some way they were able to surpass either the Rattlers or the Panthers and grab that all-important home game in the first round when the playoff picture comes together. As for San Diego, they're coming off a really rough loss too. One that they maybe could have avoided if they went a little bit more conventional or more safe with their point after at San Antonio. But they come back to Front Wave Arena to try to get that foul taste out of the mouth from when the last time these two teams played here. It was week 2. Vegas had that 20-point second half deficit, came back to win it. I think that was a 48-41 game after the Strike Force were up big early on. But these games between the Nighthawks and the Strike Force have never ceased to be instant classics. I look back at some historic results. Every meeting of the 6 or 7 has been by 8 points or fewer, with the exception of one game, which was the finale of the 2023 regular season. So, case in point, when the Nighthawks and Strike Force enter the same arena, we do get a very close game that borders on being a coin toss. So here's where I go a little bit bold. I'm going to take San Diego. San Diego outright at plus 105. Through their body of work this season, they've just played the Nighthawks extremely well. They obviously built up that 20-point lead, showing what they can accomplish if they can get through the full 60-minute effort. And they've also went into Lee's Family Forum and shut down the Nighthawks 35-27 in that win, which happened a few weeks after that initial week 2 game. So that like I said, this one's a toss-up. It also represents by far the most likely underdog pick to bet if you are picking some money line outright upsets. This would probably be your starting point. With San Diego coming out, getting a bounce back win, throwing quite a wrench into that Western Conference playoff picture near the bottom around that 3-4 seed line. But I do like this pick. I have confidence in it. Monica agrees. Definitely wouldn't be a bad idea grabbing that additional point at those minus 110 odds. You never know if you're going to need it. And with the way that the Strike Force the past couple of years have played in 1-point games, might honestly be the difference. But in search of a underdog win here, I'll play them plus 105, getting plus a nickel. And so with that, our single game bets are complete. Time to craft what we hope is the winning 3-leg parlay. We'll kick things off with Friday night's showdown. And this is where we will go. Tulsa at minus 7.5. I just think the end game here is that Tulsa is about a touchdown per 10 possessions better than the average team. And the Barnstormers are about a touchdown worse than the average team. So you put those together. On a typical run-of-the-mill day, Tulsa probably gets the job done here by 14 points. If I were to make a guess at exact margin, that would probably be it. I do like the idea of Edwards and company setting the tone to start this game. The Oilers defense making some stops, particularly early on, and building up that cushion that we need to withstand any sort of late Iowa rally. Obviously, with the Barnstormers, you do have to be scared of that backdoor cover situation, which they've accomplished twice on the season. Maybe even 3 times. I'd have to double check. But at least here, we wouldn't necessarily get burned for it on our single game bets by including it in our parlay. So that is the bet that will kick us off. My second leg that I like here is another Bay Area pick, which normally has burned me with my parlays this season. But True Faith looks forward, not backwards. We're taking the over on this game. Never in a million years would I have thought that I'd be backing any sort of Bay Area over. Maybe the past week's Bay Area Arizona game was a lone exception to that. But the reality of the fact with this pick is that with how incredible Bay Area's offense has been, showing basically a 45-point floor, it just makes underbetting at this 82.5 number no longer feasible. So we have to ride this wave of offensive momentum. It certainly helps that we get a capable signal caller lining up on the opposite side of the field with Collazo. Tough matchup either way, but I do feel like points will be scored aplenty in this one, at least enough to get us across. We could probably flirt with 90, and that would do the trick equally as well. So second leg, Bay Area San Antonio over 82.5. And to wrap up my parlay, we're going to stick with Saturday and lay the 13.5 with the Arizona Rattlers. And this is just a situation where the Rattlers have been the best team in the IFL. The Wranglers, by and large, have been the 14th ranked team in the IFL. So this is just an eye test. Don't overthink it type of pick. It also helps that we're getting this below the key number of 14 in backing the favorite. The last time these two teams played again, the result was a 49-20 Arizona win. So they certainly know how to play this Wranglers team at their best. And again, it's one of those ones. A spread bet can leave you susceptible to a late backdoor cover, especially if Northern Arizona is within a few scores late. But it's hard to fade Arizona right now in any capacity. And I don't think 13.5 is enough for me to flip myself to the other side and take the points rather than laying them. And Monica's saying there's nothing I'd want to pick among the offerings for Rattlers Wranglers. I think, didn't you mention that you think this game could flirt with 100, though? Would that be accurate, or did I just read that completely wrong? In any event, that is going to be the 3-leg parlay that I place for this week. I'll recap it up here. We'll start Friday night. Tulsa at -7.5 at Iowa. Bay Area and San Antonio going over 82.5, making it a 5th straight Bay Area over. And to cap off the 3-legger, the Rattlers laying 13.5 at Northern Arizona, able to cover that spread with a dominant win. Those legs put together offer plus 595. And a $10 bet, if successful, turns into that $69.57 payout that we've been gunning for in each of the last 3 weeks. Is this the time where this goes green? Monica saying yes, but not 100% convinced of that. Well, welcome to the world of sports betting, where you feel that there's a bet like, oh, yes, this is going to happen, but then maybe either right before or right after you place the bet, those second thoughts start to creep in. It is a very, very interesting dynamic, one that is very, very fun to try to tackle. All right, so that is going to do it for tonight's episode. As we gear up for tomorrow's game against Tulsa and Iowa. That game you can catch on the IFL network. That URL is also in the description. Definitely check it out if you haven't gotten around to it already. There is an account that you'll need to set up if you want to watch, but you do get a 7-day free trial out of the deal. So if you haven't seen an IFL game yet, check it out. See if you like it. If yes, great. If not, you can always cancel the subscription at absolutely no charge to you. So however you digest this week's IFL football, I hope that you are entertained by it. For those of you who will be following along with my bets and tailing along, I wish you the best of luck. I will see you at the cashier. Have a great night.